Okay, so in this video, I would like to let you know how to import other data formats into the STATA. So usually, uh, we might use other type of data. Uh, that means the data is not stored as the DTA file, that's data format. Usually might store in the so-called common separate value text file or TXT files, the plain text file. So in that case, you might need to use this command import delimited to load such type of files to the data. So basically, you can just type the import delimited using the file's name .txt, the txt extension or CSV extension. So txt extension is a kind of computer file that it structures the sequence of lines of the electronic text. So it looks like that's typical you will find in real life. Is stored, can read by the text document, and each line is a data point. Okay, so that's a txt file. Another type is CSV. The CSV extension is the delimited text file that uses the comma to separate the value. So usually the CSV file you can use STATA to open. You use Excel to open. Okay, so that's the .csv file. Okay, that's a tool file. So you can use this, and this cannot directly use STATA to read it. You need to use this command to load it. Otherwise, STATA cannot understand. So use import delimited. And typically, we will have option called clear that help you to clean the previous files. And if your data contains some non-English characters, you might use encoding and specify UTF-8. That can help you to read the Chinese characters or other non-English characters correctly. So you might also put the option like this. Okay. So pay attention. If you want to put some option, you need to use the comma. Okay, in the data. So let's see how to use this. So you just highlight and implement, and you will implement the 5 variable 500 observation into the data. So you can find, and actually this is the same data sets here. This is a txt file, and this is, and we can load using this command, make this file become the data format, and then we can do other data management, data analysis. Okay, that's the txt, and you can also load CSV file, and very similar, and that's exact the same file as we show here. Okay, and you can also do several other things using their option or command. For example, the first line demonstrate you can also rename the specified variable names of the import column. For example, you can see in this file, that is this file, the first column, the first row is the variable names, and the first column's variable name is missing, and you can just specify, I want to name this variable as a new name called ID, and they will show up later in the data. And also you can specify which row represents the variable name. So in this case, the first row is the variable name. Okay. And also you can specify which column and which row you want to import. So it's just let data know you want to import the first column to the third column, third row to 8 rows. Okay, so here I demonstrate what we just talked about. So remember the first column, there's no variable name. And if you do that, they will give you the new name called ID. If you do not specify, it's not call ID, they might call V1, something like this. And you also let data know which is your variable column, variable row, variable names, the row for the variable names. So data will load it correctly. Okay. And also you want to just specify, you just want to load the first 3 columns and the third column to 8 column, then you can also do this, and this data just load this row and column, this data. Okay. And finally, after you load it, you want to save to the data format permanently. You can use this save command. So as I say, you just put save and the variable the data file's name, and it's where you want to store. This is the path, the folders you want to store. And you can have the replace this option that can override the previous version of the file in the directory you try to save in to. And if you want to keep the old version as the backup, you need to use different name. Otherwise, it will overwrite. Okay. So if you do that, you will be safe. So then the data will have the new file will exist. Work data in the work data. Sorry. So there's new file called ACS 2005 test 1 that will exist. Okay. Okay, let's save. And you can import and you can also export. That means you can change the CSV and TXT file to this data. So for example, you already open a data file and you want to change to the CSV or TXT. So it's very easy. You just use export delimited. You want to create this new file called ACS 2015 new.csv. Then it will create this new file. Okay. And if you put replace, that will replace the original ACS 2015.csv if these files already exist. Okay. And you can also import and export Excel file to this data. Okay. So import, that means originally is the Excel file. That means it's .xls or xlsx. And you can also use import Excel to load it. And you can specify the variable you want to load it, and also specify the sheet you want to load it. In this case, you want to load the data. So what this means, the thing we want to load is actually this Excel file. This is Excel file. And this spreadsheet called data. And you want to load this data and specify this. The first column has specific name, has specific name, the data, year, and serial. So that you will specify this name. Okay, and also you can export Excel, and that will change the data format to the Excel format. Okay, and also you can save to the specific spreadsheet.